Good morning, children. In the previous chapter, I've taught you in Python, I've taught you about variables, I've taught you about functions, I taught you about lists, that is indexing values and assigning values, and dictionaries. Okay, today we'll start day 3 of Python. Sorry, let me share the screen with you. Okay, Python. Today we'll be learning about integers, that is positive, negative, zero, long integers, float point integers, complex numbers. We're also going to learn about variables, how to assign values to a variable. We're going to learn about multiple assignments. And the next part, what we're going to learn is about operators. Hope we have time. What is operators? Operators is a symbol. It performs different types of operations like addition, subtractions on the sum values that is being given. So these values that we get are called as operands, and we have different types of operators in Python. They are called as the arithmetic operator, assignment operator, relational operator, logical operator, and unary operator. We'll be learning each one in detail. Okay, let's start um, with the integers. Okay, what are integers? Integers basically are whole numbers. Like 22 is a whole number, 32 is a whole number. Any whole numbers, 10, 15, all these are whole numbers. So integers are whole numbers. But we have different types of integers. They are called as positive integers, negative integers. Then we have zeros and long integers. What are positive integers? Here I've given an example. I is equal to 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. This is called as a positive integer. Okay. And here I've given j value is equal to minus 20. Minus 20 is called negative integer because it has a minus sign. And here I said k is equivalent to 0. So this is a 0 integer. So I showed you the different types of integers. Now what is long integer? Long integer stores large number. It does not lose its precision. Its way of using these numbers 999 continuously. And if you want to write a long number, you have to use the suffix L at the end. So I've given here an example. I is equivalent to 9999. Actually, it keeps continuing and it stores all these values. And at the end, if you write an L, it shows that this is a very large number. Float point numbers. What is float point numbers? Float point numbers are nothing but decimal point numbers. So numbers that are written with a decimal point, they divide this into two parts. That is the integer and the fractional part. Okay, now see here you got, and these float points basically they are very useful for scientific notations. All these people who are the scientists who are doing this finding out the solar system, different accuracies and all, they use these scientific notations, and it is denoted with an E, a capital E or a small e. And this E, it indicates to the power of 10. So it evens to the power of 10. Let's see an example, 5.5 E4. Okay, I'll take the Python screen, one of the screen, and I'm saying 5.5, E denotes 10, 4. So what do I get the value? I get it as 55,000. So to the power of 10. So if I really want to show it like your mathematical way, it would be 5.5, okay, into 10, into 10, into 10, into 10, because it's at 4. E denotes 10 and 4. So to the power of 4. So you see, you get the value. This is how you do the float values. Now let's see the integer values. What is complex? So I showed you about float. So here you have another example, 10.5 into same way you need to do it. Now complex numbers. What are complex numbers? You have already learned in your maths what is complex numbers. Complex numbers has two parts, right? The real part and the imaginary part. How is it useful in Python? Here you see that complex numbers are useful for creating this computer graphics, and it's used in science and technology. So in your maths, you've already learned about complex numbers. It has a real part and an imaginary part. So the imaginary part should be represented at the end with a J. Okay, now let's learn how to create a complex number. Now let's say the real number is 2 and the imaginary number is 3. And if I want to check which is real number, which is imaginary number, the imaginary number is written at the end with J. But how does the Python program understand it? So if you want to know whether it's understood or not, you use dot real for real part and dot image for the imaginary part. So let's say 2.3J. I'll use the same screen. So I'm using here. So I'll say complex number. Okay, I'll show you even the place where I've done this sum. Okay, here. Complex number, you just type complex number. I'll say complex number is equivalent to, I'll say 2 plus 3J. Okay. Now if I want to find out in this, which is the real part and the computer should understand, right? So I'll say complex num dot real. So what will it give me? Which is the real part? 2 is the real part. I forgot to put the complex number, sorry, COMPLEX, complex num is equivalent to 2 plus 3 and J I have to put because it's a imaginary. Let's check now. Complex num dot real. So see, the real number is 2, and if I want to find out the imaginary number, complex num dot imag. So it will give me 3 as an imaginary part. I hope you understood. Now let's see the type function. What is a type function? It's a built-in function. You have many types of built-in functions, print function, help function. We already did the print function, right? And several other functions. What is the type function used for? The type function helps you to know what type of numeric value the program is holding. Which is it a variable? Is it an integer? Is it a float value? Or is it a string value? Let's use this type function and see what is 42. 42 is an integer, right? So, and what is minus 42? It would be a float number. Let's see all this, then you can understand. So, I'll say type. I'm using the type function directly, and I'll show you how to use it even as a, so 42. So, I'm saying type. Type helps you to know what type of, see, so it says the class is a integer. It shows class shows it that's an integer. So if I say type function, but I'm using it as a negative number also, but I'm putting 42 point, okay, 1 2 3 4, whatever it is, close it. What does it show? It shows it's a float value because it has a decimal point. And suppose if I say type, I want to say, okay, we'll say BRJC. And what would it show? It would show it's a string because strings are always in inverted commas. So class is a string, and strings can be used with single inverted commas or a double inverted comma. Let's see. I'm using a single inverted comma. Yes, it says it's a string. Suppose if I only use one word in that one, would it call it a string? Yes, it would call it a string. So if I say only B, I can use single or double, but I can't use one side single and one side double. It would give me an error. So it says it's a string, and now I'm not going to use any values only. So I'll say type, and I'll say, I'll open the inverted commas and I'll close the inverted commas and close the bracket. Still it says it's a string, right? And what else I wanted to check? I wanted to check numbers also. Let's see whether numbers, it should show numbers, right? Let's see the numbers, and 1 minute. I'll show it to you in this. Let's see the numbers. So I'll say type, and I'll say 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll close it. What will it show? It will show, still it will show it's a string because I put the inverted commas. The inverted commas helps it to show that it's a string. What's the next one I wanted to check? So this is a type. So, but if I say type print, will it show an error? No, it will not show an error. Okay. So actually I need to clear the screen. I'll close the screen and open another screen so that I can show you. Okay. I'll use now, I want to check the function. If it's an integer, I want to check this function, type function. I'm going to use values here and I want to find out, though I'm going to put it as a number, I want to know whether it will take it as an integer or a float number or a string number. And I'm going to use a type function. Let's see, because we know we need to use these steps only for programs. So I'm going to say, I'll use num is equivalent to, I want to input the numbers, not like how I was doing 3 plus 2 and all that, which is very easy. I want you, the values, what I need to put. Okay. So I'll say input and I'll say enter the number. It will allow me to enter a number, my own number. So when I say enter, what will happen? It will say enter the number. Now I don't know whether this number is when I see 20, I feel it's a number. But let me check what type is it. So what should I say? I'll say print. To find out what type is it, you need to write the type of what? What are you finding out? We are finding out num. If num is a number. Clear? If num is a number. Now that we open 2 brackets, you close it with 2 brackets. What does it say? It says num is a string. Because I said enter the number and I made it a string. So if I want to convert this into a integer, a number, so then I need to put int. So if I say, just see, if I say num is equivalent to, and I say int first, int, and then I'll say, okay, I'm inputting a number. After that, I'll say input, and then I will enter the number. Now I'll say enter the number. Now I'll check. I have to put double bracket because I've opened 2, and then I want to check. I'll say same 20 I'll use, and now I want to check whether this is a string or an integer because I need numbers. I will not be able to add 20 and 30. If I say enter first number, enter second number, enter third number, it will not add. It'll just show me separately 20, 30, 40 like that. It will not add. So when I use the function int, it changes the string value into an integer. So here now I'm going to check whether it's a integer or same system, print type. And what am I checking? I'm checking whether num is an integer. Sorry. Now see what happens. Now it's converted into an integer. Now I'm going to see how to evaluate values. Okay. Suppose if I'll close this and I'll start again. Another Python program. Here I'm going to say, I'm going to evaluate values. In the previous chapter, you remember, we said 2 plus 3 minus 1 and all that, it worked out, right? But suppose if I am going to evaluate a value, suppose I say result, I want a result. What I want result? I want the result as, I'm going to put an input only. And I'll say enter number. Enter the expression, I'll say. Because I'm going to use both plus, minus and everything. So that's called an expression. When I use many operators, then I call it an expression. So enter the expression. So when I enter the expression, I'll say 2 plus 3 minus 1. You take any number you want. Will this expression work? I'll say print and I'll say result. I'll see whether I'll get this. That means I should get 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. I should get the answer as 4. Will I get the answer? No. It shows that the expression, it's not doing the expression of different values. So I have to use the evaluate option or the function for it to work. So how do I use the evaluate? So I'll say RESU. I'm doing the sum again. Result is equivalent to, and I'll say for evaluate, it's called as EVAL, and now I'll input the number, and then I'll say the number that I want to input is enter. I can use single inverted commas, ENTR, enter the expression. And I'm going to see whether it's going to work. I'm putting colon, and then I'll close. I have to close it with 2 because I've opened 2 brackets. So I'm using the evaluate function. And here he says, now I'll use the same thing, 2 plus 3 minus 1. And I'll say print, and I'll say result. Yes, it given me the answer 4. Did you understand why is the evaluate function used and how is it used? It does not evaluate if you do not use the evaluate function. So you understood how to use a type function, you understood how to use the evaluate function, and you understood how to check whether it's an integer or a float and on. So let's go to the next part. The next thing, I already taught you this in the previous chapter. I won't touch it again. Maybe when I have time, I will teach you again about numbers, string, list, tuples, and dictionary. Maybe at the end, I will again recap these things. But let's see about variables. Everybody, I already told you what's a variable. What is variable? Variables are reserved memory location and they store values. So if I say A is equivalent to 500, A is a variable and 500 is the value. So it is given with an equal to sign to make these things different. This is a variable and this is a number. So variables are reserved memory location that stores values. So when you assigned different data types to a variable, I already told you what's data types. Here you have this number strings, you have different types of data. The data types, when you assign it, you can store different types of values like the integers, decimals, and characters. And the equal to sign, it is assigned, it's an assigned value to a variable. So the left hand part of it, that is A, is called the operand is the equal to. On the left hand side is a variable, on the right hand side is the value of that variable which is stored. So let's see. I'll give these values as one is a integer, one is a float, and one is a string value. So I'll give all of them and say, okay, A is equivalent to 200, B is equivalent to, I'll give a float value 34.5, and I'll say, I can say C or I can say name, it's your wish. So instead of name, you can use name, I'll use C, I'll say C is equivalent to, I'm giving a string. So because, and I have to use an inverted comma, single or a double. So I'll say BRJC Parsi High School. What happens? Now let me see whether I get what I need. I'll say print, and I'll say A. What is A? A is 200. Print B. See? And print C. So now you know how it stores the values and what's a variable and how the variable stores value. Okay, so you have understood what is a variable. So a string can be denoted using a single quote or that you already know. So float values are with decimal points, and these are strings with inverted commas. So you understood what is integer, what is float, and what is a string. Okay, let's go to the next part. Here you can assign multiple datas. So Python allows you to assign a single value to several variables. That is, it has the same value and several variables. Now the variables are A, B, C are the variables, and the value is 5. So 5 is assigned to all these 3 values, and then it's stored, all the 3 are stored are assigned, that they are stored as in the same memory location. So let's try out this first. So A is equivalent to B is equivalent to C is equivalent to 5. So if I say A 5, B 5, C 5, but I can't assign it this way. A comma B is equivalent to 5. Can I do that? It'll show me an error. So that's the way you actually assign values if they are same. Now I'm giving you another example. A comma B comma C is equivalent to, I'm assigning it separately, like I'm saying 15 comma 2.3 comma, and I'm giving a string also. I'm saying BRJC. Now let's see how to identify it. A will give you 15 whole number, B will give you 2, and C will give you BRJC. So this is where you do your multiple data types. I hope you understood. Operators will do it in the next class. Till then, thank you. Have a nice day. Do all your homework.